Hello and welcome to Max Spoilers from MinnMax. I'm Ben Hansen, joined by Jeff Marchiafava,
Hey.
the prettiest boy himself. And then we have Ross, the Star Wars guy fund.
The second prettiest boy in the room.
That's right.
There you go.
Ross, for the people watching the video version of this, you have the most obnoxious R2-D2 sweater I've ever seen in my life.
It's Christmas. R2 Christmas sweater.
I'm holding on to the holiday spirit here, and it's a really comfortable sweater too. So
it's beautiful. If you don't want to look at that sweater, there is an audio option available. If you're watching this on YouTube, if you're a supporter of MinnMax as a Patreon, patreon.com/MinnMax2Ns, and you're a $5 supporter, you get access to the exclusive audio feed, which gives you an early access, so 1 day early to the MinnMax Show podcast, other bonuses, and then also the audio version of these types of discussions, Max spoilers, game clubs in the future, stuff like that. Okay, we're here to spoil and talk all about The Mandalorian Season 1. Hell, let's spoil Season 2. Let's keep it rolling.
Sure.
Jeff, you just binged this thing.
Yes.
Okay.
About 2 or 3 weeks ago now, so it's far enough away that it's still a little fuzzy despite having just watched the entire thing. But yeah, so we watched the first episode together.
Yeah, we had Max spoilers for that.
And then I didn't watch any more because we weren't going to do individual videos for it. But then you said Ross was coming back and we were going to do it when it all wrapped up. And so my wife and I sat down and we watched the entire thing in one sitting.
now, how did that play for you? Because I think the number one complaint about this show is that on a week-to-week basis, some people felt it moves slowly.
Yeah, and it was weird. I think you watching it in one sitting was the way to do it, and it was weird because I wasn't reading articles about it as it was going on, but I'd see headlines every now and then. And it was like, last night's was the worst episode. This week's is the best episode. And taken as a whole, I think it flowed fine.
Oh, good.
And it was just a fun series throughout.
Yeah, I mean, so where did you land? You landed on fun? Any more critical thoughts before we dive in deep on specifics here?
Yeah, we were kind of talking. I'm in kind of a weird place with Star Wars now where I don't go into things with a lot of expectations of what I'm going to get out of it. I don't mean that in a negative way.
Doesn't that say in and of itself that Star Wars has not been great recently?
No, I think it says that people are way too particular about what they want or what they expect Star Wars to be. And I think once you break free of that, you can watch something for just what it is. And I feel like the writing in this was well done. I think the special effects are great for the most part.
Yeah.
I think it is good television, and I think the new movies are good movies. And it's just I see you're already
I'm with you for two of those.
Already making that face. And it's just that people have a lot of expectations for Star Wars and a lot of feelings going into Star Wars stuff that I think sometimes works against it.
I hear you. I think
works against their own enjoyment, I should say.
I've just been annoyed by people, even after seeing like Rise of Skywalker, being like, well, it was a Star Wars movie. I don't know what I expected. But it's like, after seeing Endgame, and I didn't even grow up a huge comic book person, but after seeing Endgame, I didn't leave and be like, well, it was a Marvel movie. It was like, hell yeah, I am more excited about this universe now. I think it's so incredibly well done. I think just like resigning to be like, I'm happy with any Star Wars stuff you show me on the screen is not a good state for the fandom.
To be clear, that's not what I'm saying.
Roll back the tape.
I'm saying, yes, it is Star Wars stuff that I am enjoying, but I'm just not going in it thinking, okay, it's got to do this, it's got to do that, it's got to be this.
It's the best way to approach anything is to try to leave your expectations at the door as much as you can. That said, I had huge expectations for The Mandalorian, and I ended up loving it. It was my favorite Star Wars thing of 2019, and
that's the category we're missing for the MinnMax Awards.
There you go. Yeah, and it was just like it was made specifically for me because I love TV that's week to week and not binging because I don't have time to binge a show. So I love like the weekly watch it and then talk about it and speculate what's going to happen next. And I love a TV show that is episodic. This was super episodic, way more than most, prestige shows that are coming out these days.
100%, yeah.
Where you had
because it feels like such a throwback to 70s shows.
Yeah, exactly. You had storylines that started and ended in each episode. And even if it didn't push like the main storyline forward, you were still getting a lot of like character stuff, which is great for me. And then I also just love super weird and goofy Star Wars, and this show was not afraid to be weird at all, which I really appreciate.
What level of weird? What do you mean by weird?
like having your super cool Mandalorian fighter character get in a slow motion chase with a Jawa sandcrawler and then get like blasted off the top and land comically flat on his back.
Yeah.
That was my favorite episode, the second episode.
Oh, that's interesting.
So
Okay.
little dialogue, all just told with like the visuals, and I was like, I can't believe I'm watching the Mandalorian climb like Batman style, Batman 66 style, up the side of a sandcrawler. They're throwing junk at him out the windows. And it's everything I want out of Star Wars.
What did you make of that fact? Because I don't think they ever reveal what planet that is necessarily, but Jawa's beyond Tatooine, right?
Yeah.
Is this the first time, at least, it's the first time in Star Wars fiction that I've seen that's established that? Because I thought it was such a intricately Tatooine-y thing.
Yeah. I guess there may be Jawa appearances in some of the, the minor comics and stuff like that.
Yeah.
There certainly hasn't been in any of the movies or shows. They did look a little different, so you could say it's like a different offshoot. They had like red eyes, I think, and they're super into eggs. So, we never saw that in episode 4.
Well, yeah, they're just going through all the droids and scrapping them, just hoping there's an egg somewhere inside one of these droids. Overall, for the show, for me, I really enjoyed it, but I think I enjoy it so much more on a macro level. Like if I really started thinking too much about the writing, then there wasn't that much dialogue, which again, I think is really cool. I think it looked great. The vibe was great. I think the writing, people are kind of giving it a little bit of a pass. I think
in terms of dialogue, you mean?
Yeah, exactly. With dialogue, or just like, how many Womp Rats references can we have in this? I understand it's a Star Wars thing. It's fun to be cheeky and reference itself. But I thought a lot of like second-to-second dialogue was just above mediocre compared to the overall show, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, I think, dialogue is definitely aiming for functional, I think, which is kind of, that's kind of an episode 4 aesthetic as well. So
Yeah, I guess so. Okay, my first question for you, Ross.
Yeah.
Pop quiz. How close did Yoda ever get to Django? I'm trying to think of like when these two concepts have been together. Was it just like at the Battle of Geonosis, like Yoda rides in, so he probably saw the corpse of Django, and that's the closest a Mandalorian and a Yoda has ever been?
Really, Mace Windu, you just chopped that father's head off? Yeah, that's probably about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a weird thing to think about. And so we should talk about, since the first episode that we recorded for Max Spoilers, Baby Yoda has become our Lord and Savior. I believe that Baby Yoda is President of the United States at this point.
Yeah.
And I think in the first episode, we're like, oh, he's cute. Moving on. I don't think anybody expected it to become a Furby-level sensation.
Well, I mean, I think Ross called it after the first episode that it was kind of, it looked like it was going to be a lone wolf and cub style situation.
For sure.
Yeah.
I'm talking about cultural phenomenon.
That it would
Meme
explode.
fuel,
Yeah, they were not afraid to go cute with Baby Yoda, which is maybe kind of a bold choice when people are like, "Oh, Star Wars has got to be cool above all else." You know what I mean? So I appreciated that. There was a lot of like great little, get to know you moments between Mandalorian and Baby Yoda, which apparently there's a lot of confusion amongst non-hardcore fans or whatever.
I think a lot of people think it's actually
Yoda. Yeah. It's not actually Yoda, for the record. It's just a Yoda character.
Every MinnMax fan, I think, understands that.
Exactly. I don't think we're at big risk there.
Yeah.
But
Even I understood that. I thought I was watching Boba Fett
Resident
the entire first
moron
episode.
rooting for Boba Fett throughout the series.
But as the father of a toddler, I'm like, when the baby is like messing with all the buttons in the Mandalorian ship, and he's like, "Don't touch those," and the baby's like, "Oh, I'm touching those harder." I'm like, I relate to this extremely heavily.
The age of him is kind of confusing because it's like, okay, relatively, he's kind of like a 2-year-old, somewhere in that realm. But then my least favorite episode by a mile, when they're on the planet and with the ATSD and stuff like that, and like
the Seven Samurai episode.
Yes, exactly. And when Baby Yoda's like hanging out with the kids and stuff, they're like all kind of acting as if they're the same age. Or it's like, oh, hey, Baby Yoda, what's up? You want to play ball? Or it's like, wait, now I don't understand this age at all. Is he a baby? Because based on his age, he should be at 50, roughly where they are, right?
It's a weird development progress, because you think with language too, like you can understand, okay, he has a very long lifespan, fine. But in 50 years, like how long could it possibly take to start learning language and how things work, you know? Like he's still pressing buttons because they're shiny or whatever. And it's like, you're 50 years old. Like how did this creature, like this species, even make it this far?
Yes.
If you're just like waddling around for 50 years.
That's why they need to develop the Force, just for defensive capabilities. So they aren't eaten
Clearly.
by a bird throughout a 50-year span.
Yeah. They clearly, though, they fudge on kind of the age a little bit in terms of development, because he's definitely a toddler. And then, but when he's with those kids, he's like running around, like playing some soccer or whatever, too, or whatever they're doing. So yeah, you're kind of like, wait, is he a baby or is he like a 5-year-old?
What is it? And and there's like rumors, I don't know if you saw this, that who knows if it's true. Star Wars rumors are all over the place. But the idea that future Star Wars films will be set during the High Republic, which is like 400 years before A New Hope.
Yeah.
And so it's a weird thing where people are like, oh, then Yoda can be in it, which would be an interesting way of connecting it. So if just like Lucasfilm overall at this point is just like, for all of its flagship things, being like, okay, we need to have some sort of Yoda-like creature.
There
so we should
must
probably
be a Yoda. You got to check the Yoda box.
It seems that way, right?
Yeah.
And now with the way this is ending, of let's go ahead, and the overall quest now for season 2 and maybe beyond is let's find Yoda's home planet and return him to his world.
That's a big question I have for you guys. Is it about finding Yoda's home planet, or is it about finding Jedi to drop him off with? Because they talk about finding his home, but for the Mandalorians, as we learned in that last episode, Mandalorian is not a race; it's like a creed. I don't know if that's the exact words they say.
That's exactly what it says, I think.
Yeah. So it's for Mandalorians, it's your group that you've chosen to become part of, and they talk about how people who can do that are the Jedi. People who can use the Force, they don't have that word for it.
Yeah.
So,
and that's what I was confused about. So this takes place after
Return of the Jedi.
Yep.
Return of the
it's
Jedi.
It's about 5 years after Return of the Jedi. I
and
think.
yet, no one that he comes across has any idea of what the Force is.
I love that idea. That was one of my that probably is my favorite thing about the show, is just that it's not common knowledge. Just the idea of like, oh, I've heard some rumors about something like that. Like, so you're saying that
Jedi?
I mean, you remember in Episode 4, Han Solo thought that the Jedi were like a myth, basically.
Yeah, but that's
right?
before that. Basically, they use Force powers to blow up 2 Death Stars. You're saying, Jeffem, and then at that point,
which is weird.
I don't think they're saying, hey, Galaxy, Luke is a Jedi. This means this, and this is how we won the war. I don't think that's like public knowledge.
That's what's weird though, because then when you get to the new movies, everyone is like, oh, like we're part of the Rebel Alliance and all the old stories are true.
Yeah.
Wow.
And
Skywalker is this.
And you can recognize Han Solo when he comes through the door, because these are so well-known people.
Lando, you're badass.
But the idea that just no one knows, like even the concept of the Force at that point. I mean, it's an interesting idea, but it felt very weird to me. Of like.
Well, I think the people he's interacting with aren't exactly like the governments.
Yeah,
you know? Like,
I mean, it's some backwater folk, but
it is weird to think about.
That's never stopped backwater folk everywhere else from knowing.
Yeah, Rey was
to
as backwater as
folk.
it gets, and she knew like the legend of Luke Skywalker or whatever.
But isn't it weird? And maybe the first episode of season 2, Baby Yoda will be decapitated. You never know. Disney's wild.
Yeah.
But it is weird to think that if this storyline's continuing, that while Rey is such a powerful Force user, that Baby Yoda's probably still alive somewhere in the timeline of the new movies, and in theory would be a much more powerful Jedi than Rey at that point.
Yeah,
is that a stretch to
I
say?
guess it all depends on if they connect up with Luke, which I think is probably a pretty low possibility for this show. I think it's a lot more likely that they might run into some of the characters from Rebels. And
that was your thing you said in the first episode.
I want to stay away from spoilers, because people should watch Rebels, and not every character makes it to the end of that.
Yeah.
But there are a couple of characters that kind of end the show by going out on a quest together, and that's right around the time of The Mandalorian, I think. And I think that it would make sense for these different parties to meet up in some way.
Yeah, I guess so. This is another tangent, but hey, Star Wars talk, what are you going to do? But I saw somebody tweet, like, if you could have Disney create any Star Wars show, what would you have them create? and I saw this person, I think it's like Bill Madrone on Twitter, but he's like, it is insane to me that they have not just made an animated show that's set right after Return of the Jedi, and it's just Han, Luke, and Leia and their continuing adventures. It's one of those like, oh yeah, like that is easy money, and I know it'd be weird. Maybe they'd get Billy Lord to play Carrie Fisher, or like try and somehow pay homage while moving forward. But like that just seems like the biggest slam dunk, don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that they wanted to keep that time period off limits while the sequel trilogy was in the works, which it was for quite some time, even before George Lucas sold to Disney.
Right.
He was working on concepts for Episode 7, so I'm sure they. It was just kind of an unspoken rule, like you stay out of this time period with the big characters.
Right.
So now that that's all done, I mean, I'm expecting there to be a lot more Luke-centric stuff and Leia and Han even in the post-Return of the Jedi.
Well, for sure, and like future
era.
Disney Plus stuff with the Obi-Wan stuff, which I'm very excited about. The rumors are they're casting for like a young Luke now, but curious what that's going to be like. Like, how much are they going to hang out?
It's going to be it's going to be interesting. I mean, obviously Luke knows who Ben Obi-Wan is in Episode 4.
But it's kind of like a distant thing, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Isn't he's the crazy old hermit that lives out there?
Yeah.
And so, but maybe if he's going to be so much younger.
That is to say, the one that I had all those adventures with when I was a kid.
Exactly.
But maybe if there's like enough of a gap, maybe if it's like, what, he'd be like 5 or something with Obi-Wan, then it's like 13 years later, however old Luke is in A New Hope, then it's like, oh yeah, I guess there was that guy that saved my life 6,000 times for a Disney Plus series.
Stopped all these boulders from falling on me.
And also they can always just ignore the disconnect there.
Yeah.
As they ignore so much.
Exactly. So speaking of the Obi-Wan show, it's going to be like essentially the showrunner, the Jon Favreau of this show is Deborah Chow, who directed 2 episodes of Mandalorian.
Look at this. Look at this Star Wars guy.
Segue.
Very
Yes.
good. No notes, by the way, Rob.
She directed the 3rd one and I believe the 7th one. So the 3rd one was where the Mandalorian hands off the baby and then has a change of heart, which I was a big fan that happened in the 3rd episode because I thought that was like the season-long storyline.
Sure.
And, it ends with the big battle with the Mandalorians coming to his aid, and he rescues the baby, and they get off planet.
And basically the John Wick 2 moment of everybody's things going off and realizing, we need to turn on him.
Yes. Yeah. So, and then the 6th episode, the 7th episode, where you kind of get the band back together, all the characters that were established in the earlier episodes, and they go to, meet up back on that main planet. So those were pretty good episodes. So
that's nice that she's connected in Star Wars already and kind of knows the flavor for Disney Plus and stuff like that.
Yep.
Hopefully those episodes will be cheaper to produce than Mandalorian because like some of these got pretty expensive by the end.
Yeah, depends on how much you have to pay Ewan McGregor, I guess.
I guess so.
Yeah.
But with Tatooine, speaking of Tatooine, it's weird to go back.
Yeah, that was interesting. Weird to go back and then to spend so much time with Amy Sedaris, who I didn't recognize until the credits came up.
Oh, really?
But she seems like she's playing a character straight out of like the Ewok movies, basically.
It was so silly, but sure, I guess we're on board. Yeah. She's the one who calls him a womp rat, of course.
Sure.
I guess it's that problem of like making the universe smaller, like when they go back to Tatooine, because especially when a character has a line about Beggar's Canyon, it's like, really? I understand landing on the same planet, but landing next to the same canyon?
There's only one thing on every planet.
It's so insane. But then they go to the cantina. Like that was the big thrill.
And the cantina has really changed. Obviously, droids are allowed to work there, not just
progress, baby.
Just have a drink there. Yeah. And the whole city was a lot more deserted, it seemed like. So
it was fun to see.
They didn't have a problem, filling out the the marketplace scene in that first episode. So obviously, it was like a creative choice. To make it less of a hive of scum and villainy, maybe.
It was also...
So that episode ended with you have Ming-Na Wen as the bounty hunter or whatever. She gets shot. She's lying on her dead body's on the ground, and somebody walks up to her. Do you guys have any thoughts on that?
No, but
character?
You should just tell us who it is.
Okay,
it's got to be Boba Fett.
It's definitely a Boba Fett tease because I had to read this online. I don't know it well enough to know every sound effect that's associated with every character, but when that character was walking up, there was a sound effect of like spurs on each of his step, and that was a sound effect that was associated with Boba Fett in Empire Strikes Back.
Okay.
So it's whether it turns out to be Boba Fett or not.
So it
who
was
knows?
about Boba Fett
Yes,
the whole time.
Of course.
I
Well,
was
it
right.
is.
I was
It's-
so excited to tell you about this.
Yeah.
You're telling me they're leaning into
All
Boba Fett with
right.
the Mandalorian?
Yeah.
But I think it is smart. Like, I think I was expecting that to come back in this season, but now it's like, well,
Yeah.
just to set this up in the middle of this series so that for season 2, all the fans will just be waiting for the big moment when Boba Fett comes in, and that they can have a huge splash the size of Baby Yoda all over again, right?
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, any doubt he's coming in season 2?
I don't know. Maybe it's a later season thing even, but who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah, who knows? I assume that it's going to be followed up on at some point, but it's definitely 100% a Boba Fett tease. So,
Yeah. Yeah. So, hey, basically official now that he's out of the Sarlacc pit. So I'm glad I know that before I die.
And we should also give credit to Ross for calling that they would bring back the bounty hunting droid from the first episode.
Yes.
too.
And they paid off the whole his frankly strange desire to explode himself.
Yes, of course. Yeah, you really
but
called
it.
it.
Was
That
a big
was
heroic
wild.
moment. Yeah, I like that he got reprogrammed and he's like a nanny droid now. But
Yeah.
who carries the baby into battle with him? It's
Seems like
kinda
a
Still just
mistake.
murdering everyone.
But I did like when he gets out of the boat in that final episode and he's marching through the terrible acidic water. It's basically the scene from Dante's Peak with the grandma pulling the boat. You remember she's like dying in the acid lake?
It wasn't a grandma.
Yeah, I know. It wasn't Dante's Peak, though, wasn't it? Yeah, it's the grandma
Yeah.
that dies in Dante's Peak.
No, it was. This is a terrible conversation to be having in the middle of this. But I think it was like the subway driver or.
Dante's Peak grandma.
Was that a Pierce
acid.
Brosnan movie?
Yes, it was.
Okay, it's not acid, first of all. It's lava. The whole point is that it's a volcano.
No,
It's not an
called-
acid volcano?
It is. It's an acidic lake. Look, you don't remember crap about Dante's Peak. This YouTube clip's called "Old Lady in Acid Lake," and it is exactly the scene with
And
IG11.
you're
is that
actually
your clip?
describing
Did you
this word for
upload
word.
that, and that's why you described it
That's
so
right. This is
perfectly?
the MinnMax YouTube channel. It's mainly clips from the old lady
No,
in Dante's Peak.
Am I thinking of the other volcano movie that came out?
I think you're thinking of Volcano. Wait, no,
It was
Volcano's
just
the
called-
70s one. The other one was.
I think
I think
it was
also called Volcano.
Again,
Was it?
right?
Because there was volcano in a subway tunnel, and the operator of the subway had to jump out, and he was going
wow.
through the molten lava.
And he was
as
going,
he
"Yeah,
also
wow,
died.
wow, wow."
I think what we're establishing here is that if there is something that will like dissolve a person,
Yeah.
somebody's
Yeah.
gonna have to walk in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
and
yeah.
it was IG-11 in this case.
That's storytelling 101.
which was sad. I was more
It was
sad to
sad.
see him go the second time, more so than even
I
the
would,
first time.
He was delightful.
I'd rather keep him around than Carl Weathers. Like Carl Weathers. I
Oh.
love Carl Weathers, but like he's just. I feel like he's overacting this entire series. Just, man, no! He's just always screaming, and he always
is.
takes me out
He's
of it.
Arrested Development Carl Weathers
Yes.
permanently now.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
And I'm okay with that. I like the little moment with him and Baby Yoda when he's like, "Come on, do your thing with the hand,"
And then Baby Yoda's like
he's
this
like,
little
"Hello,"
wave thing. Yes,
just
very
delightful.
cute.
Yeah. So end of this last episode, Moff Gideon cuts his way out of his crashed TIE fighter, which we all knew was. He was still alive because it didn't explode like
Hang on 2
everything
seconds
does.
before you get to this.
Yeah.
What about when he first lands in that TIE fighter and like
Oh,
the
yeah, nice
wings
and folds up.
bend?
Really
I've never
handy.
seen that before.
Yeah, I think I'd seen concept art somewhere for something like that.
Okay.
But yeah, if you've got somebody you want to make an entrance in a TIE fighter, it's got to fold up in some way, right?
It's very sweet because otherwise, how do you get out of that
Yes.
thing? I've never thought about
He
it.
also had like a nice little personal elevator out of it too, instead of like a ladder or something. Didn't he
Ooh.
like slowly rise up?
Yeah.
it's
Okay,
great.
sorry, but he's cutting his way out.
Yeah, he's cutting his way out with the Darksaber, which is kind of a new classic Star Wars weapon. Are you familiar with that at all?
Honestly, I saw it and I'm very stupid, and I wrote down Vibra Blade.
Okay.
And then
That's what I thought too.
okay, but
Yeah.
that's like a KOTOR thing.
Yeah, so this is like for the super fans, it's like a big final, Easter egg or, promise of things to come. The Darksaber is like a Mandalorian heirloom, sort of. It was established in the Clone Wars show. It first appeared with Jon Favreau's character in Clone Wars, who was like
weird.
a Mandalorian terrorist. And he has this, it's like a black-bladed ancient lightsaber that, an ancient Mandalorian who became a Jedi created and then has been like passed down as like a symbol of power and authority in Mandalorian culture or whatever. So it started out with him. It changed hands a lot, and then last time we had seen it was in the final season of Rebels. Bo-Katan, who is Katie Sackhoff's character, who I thought might show up in the show, is like has it and is going to lead the Mandalorians in like a revolt against the Empire. So obviously that didn't go well.
Right.
Oh, that's
and
a
this
very
guy
fun thing. Okay.
was involved in their downfall, and now he has that as like an ultimate like insult to the Mandalorians.
That's so much more interesting that you can glean all that from the Darksaber, because I saw it and it's like, okay, once I did the research, it's like it's a Darksaber, but it's like, okay, it's just another one big deal. But there really is only one Darksaber in the galaxy?
Yeah, and it's like it has super high cultural value and meaning to Mandalorians.
Right.
So presumably they all know what it is and its importance. So if Mandalorian confronts the Moff and sees that, there's going to be a lot of drama around that. And maybe it opens the door for Katie Sackhoff's character to show up.
It seems like that would make sense, don't you think?
Yeah.
And that's where they would go. So just to go back in time a little bit about where they can go with season 2, I like that idea that, and I'd have to check the wording in the final episode again, but I like the idea that he's just going to drop the child off with Jedi.
Yeah.
I think that's, I don't know, because I don't want them to explore Yoda's home planet. I love the idea that there's this almighty mystery that George Lucas has set up, right? Like, I don't want the concept to be George Lucas sells the house to Disney and says, oh, there's one room you can't go in. It's the Yoda room. And then the second he leaves the house, like, we got to go in that room. Like, I think that sucks. But if it is just a general concept of Jedi, I'm much more excited about it then.
Yeah, I think it's going to be both ways. I think they're going to be like looking for the planet of the Yodas and, not find it, or maybe they find clues or whatever, and then I think they might end up finding, Jedi or Force users instead. But yeah, with Dave Filoni being executive producer on the show, he's like George Lucas's understudy and is like he's the guy that all the other creatives turn to and say, what would George Lucas do in this situation?
Yeah.
And then he, takes off his cowboy hat and tells them all about it. With him on board, I don't think there's going to be anything that is going to get too far away from the Lucas vision.
That's
I don't
a bold
think so.
claim, man. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. One of my least favorite things of the entire series, the Toro fella. Like the guy that's in the cantina on Tatooine, and they try and set him up like cool Han Solo. I just thought
he's
that
just
guy
a big poser. Yeah,
I thought he sucked.
I mean,
like,
you're supposed to think he sucks.
I
right?
know, but I think the actor sucked.
Yeah, I mean, he was. Yeah.
And then did you see? I was very satisfied when I saw this that he was on Instagram. The actor just like bashing Rise of Skywalker.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's just like, what are you doing, dude? Like,
I guess you get killed off, so
he's
not coming back.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah. Along those lines, I think my least favorite episode was the one where he goes to break the people out of prison.
Oh, interesting. That's one of my favorites.
I think that probably is my favorite.
I just found all the secondary characters were very annoying to me.
Even Clancy Brown as
like,
the Devil Horn dude.
He was all right.
Yeah.
Actually, I didn't even know that was Clancy Brown. That's awesome.
Yeah.
But the Twi'lek lady who... Yeah,
she sucked.
Yes.
Her brother
super sucked, and it just felt like the kind of situation, like the Mandalorian got away from this crew of losers, and he was being forced to hang out with them again, involuntarily. And it's like they're touching crap on his ship, and then it was like, oh, they find Baby Yoda. This is going to be a whole thing now. Like, they're going to take Baby Yoda from him, and it's just like,
and he's just like trying to play it cool because if you react, then they'll like high school bullies or whatever. They'll be like, ooh, he cares about this.
Yes, their characters were absurd, especially because like, yeah, would you take off that mask, Mandalorian? And then when the devil guy's fighting him in the middle of fighting, he's like, give me that mask, like trying to take it off. It's like, what is this?
Yes.
What a weird thing to be obsessed with.
That was also probably like hour 4.5 for us too during the binge, so that it may be that it came at an opportune
I think there were
in the
silly characters. I think Bill Burr was so much fun that it bumped it up a notch there.
Yeah.
I like the idea of the droid in that episode being named Zero, which is like, what a good, simple, dumb droid name for Star Wars. That's great.
Yeah, it was. I thought the action was directed really well in that episode. That was Rick Famuyiwa, who also directed the Sandcrawler chase. I thought he was by far the best action director.
Interesting.
On the show, because that. The fight with Clancy Brown that ends with closing the door on him. I was like, that's amazing. And then he's holding it, and then he closes a secondary door. It was just, it was probably my favorite action scene of the show.
I love, but it's also a little bit silly how the Mandalorian never just shoots somebody. Like, if he needs to take somebody out, he'll like take a flamethrower to the droid's face for a while. He'll use a rope to get them over there. It's like, just shoot them with the blaster. It works really well.
It's like he's playing the video game, and you gotta, up your combo meter by using different gadgets and weaponry.
Did you see Cory Barlog, who directed the most recent God of War? He tweeted something along the lines of, and actually Reiner from Game Informer wrote an opinion piece about this as well. But Cory Barlog tweeted like, "Oh man, I love The Mandalorian. It feels like a video game. Like each episode, there's a new fetch quest. He's upgrading his armor." And then I forget who it was, but it was somebody higher up at ILM. I saw they responded to them and they said, "Do you think that's a coincidence?" Like, just like, I love that. Just like, yeah, we play video games here at Lucasfilm. Like, we're very familiar with how this would work.
Yeah, I think people are just so unused to a highly episodic show these days that having a show that is on a weekly basis and has standalone stories just feels crazy. And,
Yeah. Every once in a while, where it really dragged for me was like, the Seven Samurai episode.
Yep.
Where it's just like, at times it just felt like Xena or Hercules or something when that episode came around.
That episode especially.
It was just so...
That's my least favorite one.
Man, it was so sappy.
Part of it is that Clone Wars did it and did it a little better, I think.
Oh, okay.
The Seven Samurai episode. And part of it is that the sets looked a little, Hercules' legendary journey. Part of it is that I didn't think those dudes deserved to have their hot tub operation busted up. Like that. Isn't that what it looked like when they had like the blue stuff in their tent? Just a bunch of hot tubs at the state fair. But yeah, it was the Walker looked good in that final battle.
But then when the entire drama is like, take one step, Walker, take one step, it's like, what a stupid premise. And this is...
And also... trying to set it up like, oh no, the plan isn't going to plan. It's like, yeah, everyone knew it wasn't going to go to plan. Like, did you really think it was just going to take? I wanted to see it just take that one step and everything to go perfectly, and then the episode's just over. It's like, well, okay, we did it.
Did you think of Horizon Zero Dawn in that episode too?
No.
Oh, okay. I was thinking about just like the huge mechanical thing, like coming out of the woods, and it's like all like worn down. Like, I think that thing looked cool. And this is dumb, but seeing then that was the episode that was actually directed by Bryce Dallas Howard.
Yeah.
Maybe it's too much of a connection to draw, but I was like, oh, that's right. This entire episode just felt like Jurassic World's tone. Like just a little too saccharine dialogue, just a little too stupid. I thought you were going to say
it felt a little too much like Solo, the
movie.
No.
I wish it felt a little more like Solo, personally. I'm a Solo defender.
That one also was weird to me because they again established that he never takes his helmet off.
Yeah.
He tells them, my entire life, I've never taken it off.
Let me tell you about my family immediately.
And then she walks out the door, and he takes it off and just sits at the
gone.
window, like looking at all the kids playing.
Right.
It's like,
Well, it's like when you're naked looking out the window watching the kids play in that playground.
Can see
no one would happen to look through the window back at you.
Yeah. That was very weird.
They're all busy. Yeah, I think this final episode's probably my second favorite of the batch. I thought that was a really good ending. But specifically, my favorite scene in the entire season, by a mile, was the opening of the final episode with the two, what do you call them?
Stormtroopers, like scout troopers.
Scout troopers, technically, just on their bikes, dicking around. I'm so glad that they let that sit for like 4 minutes. Like, it's a long scene, and it is so funny.
Yeah, that is Taika Waititi, like, in concentrated form. He was the director of that last episode.
Right. Yeah, that makes more sense now.
Also did the voice of IG-11.
Right, but it's like Adam Pally and Jason Sudeikis had to look up afterwards because I'm like, surely these must be some actors that I'm not recognizing because there's no other reason they let this sit for so long.
Yep.
But just like hearing that level of just bickering, it felt like Troops. Do you remember Troops, the old like parody
Troops.
and stuff?
So good, yeah.
Or when they take their pistols out and they're trying to like shoot the cannon, they're all missing.
That first shot is so comically far away that it was the best laugh in the whole
one
show.
guy does it multiple times, and the other guy's just watching him, and then he gets out and keeps on trying to do it, and they're both just missing. Oh my god, yes.
Yeah. I would be remiss if I did not mention the episode 7 arm wrestling scene. Like, I'm hugely in favor of arm wrestling
because
in
of over
anything.
the top.
Yeah, exactly. and you think that Baby Yoda's gonna come in and like give it a little nudge to
Right.
help Mando win, but he just starts choking her, and you're like,
Whoa,
oh no.
This isn't funny anymore.
Yeah,
Baby Yoda.
yes.
We wanted to love you, but what have you done? What is Cara Dune? What's the lady's name?
Cara Dune. Yeah.
Is it Cara Dune? Oh,
Yeah,
wow. I
from
pulled that out of my
Alderaan.
butt. Yeah.
Well done.
I love the Alderaan thing. What'd you think about her?
I like Gina Carano ever since American Gladiators. So
She's in that?
yeah, she was in that reboot like 10 years ago.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, she was like the good one on it. She'd just like dominate the
Was she
the
Crush?
contenders. Yeah, she was Crush.
Yeah.
Well done.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, and she's not the best actress in terms of range, but this is a good character for her, and she's very believable in the fight scenes, like her fight club that she started on that very pastoral planet where you are tied together by a laser belt.
Yeah, what the
or
hell
whatever
was
that thing is.
Yeah. That was a weird one. Yeah, I think the look of her character, not just because she's a beautiful lady, but just like I think the style looks really cool, and I like that she has the tattoo that she like covered up for the one thing, but then every time there's dialogue, again with a lot of this show, it's like okay, sure,
And that's also another thing that hurt that episode as well.
yeah.
Because they were trying to establish that character and have some interactions between the two, and it's like, well, one character never takes off his mask, and the other one can't act super well. This could be better.
Yeah.
Making her be from Alderaan and just saying that says a lot about the character, just based on what we know about Alderaan, a peaceful planet that has no weapons. And so you can, infer that she, was part of that whole thing and then just became the most violent sort of rebel trooper,
Shock trooper,
after the Death Star. So
Yeah.
kind of adds more to the character.
What did you think about the X-Wings coming in at the end of that one episode to blow up that station?
Yeah, it was fun to see X-Wings. It was kind of just a big haha moment because those are three of the episode directors who were the
really?
pilots. Yeah, it was Dave Filoni.
God damn it, Ross.
Yeah, like Dave Filoni
impressed.
is like, if you've ever seen any behind-the-scenes Clone Wars stuff, he's like so recognizable.
Yeah,
and you see his like goony face in that X-Wing. You're like, oh, it's Dave. And then
Go, Dave, go.
yeah, I didn't know what the other two directors looked like, but it was Rick Famuyiwa and Deborah Chow. So I looked it up afterwards, and it was obviously them.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I love the look of that red ship that they were trying to launch after Falcon Crest. Is that the name of Mando's ship?
yeah.
But they were trying to launch that red ship, and I was like, what a cool design. I don't know if that's anywhere else in Star Wars, but I love the look of that. And then they immediately blow it up. All right,
Yes.
goodbye, dream ship.
X-Wings just just fly right by the Mando ship making a quick getaway. They're like, well, that couldn't be important. Let's just go blow up the station.
Yeah. Werner Herzog,
R.I.P.
R.I.P.
Sad to see him go.
It's so silly. He was like, I want to see the child.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, it's sleeping. Oh, okay, then I totally understand.
Yes.
He went out like such a sucker. I was so bummed out. He's
Yeah.
like, oh, just go mix drinks over here for a while.
He was like shockingly conscientious about the sleep needs of babies.
Which also still 50 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah. The my favorite part of that episode was when a stormtrooper came down and whispered something to Werner Herzog's character, because the idea of a stormtrooper whispering is so stupid. It's like, because it's still like the weird digitized voice, but just like they can control the volume, which I guess makes sense, but it's so weird. Moff Gideon, did you have thoughts on him overall outside of the fact that he has the Darksaber?
He was a pretty fun character. I liked him doing the biographies of each of the people that were
was
trapped.
cool, yeah.
It's like a very casual way to learn the Mandalorian's like real name.
Yeah, I loved it. It wasn't like a big musical sting or anything. It really was one of those like, wait, did they just reveal that thing real quick?
Yeah, he's like, I wrote your Wikipedia entries, so your Wikipedia entries, I guess.
Yes.
Din Djarin, I believe that's from the just... Jeff Markey, if
Sorry,
you slide
I
that
can't-
microphone
I
off
can't
this
help it.
table one more time, so help me God. Anyways, yeah, Din Djarin is that guy. And I like the little bit of lore of the Night of 1,000 Tears, they say.
Yeah, that's apparently when Moff Gideon, who's probably not a Moff at that time, was involved with the slaughter of all the Mandalorians, which
Yeah.
I'm sure that's a story that'll be told at some point.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, the shock trooper from Alderaan. At some point, I think she says something about like they'll upload me to a mind flare.
yeah.
Is that something that I'm missing? What is a mind flare?
No, just one of those super weird, like off the cuff things that
you think?
that's fun to
Okay.
hear about. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Other moments we should talk about? Back to spray.
Yeah,
That's a weird concept.
very helpful.
Yes. I guess what about just like the Force healing overall? That's a strange thing from Baby Yoda.
And it was strangely, it came at the same time as the Force healing in Rise of Skywalker.
Right
as well.
before.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I heard interviews where they were asked about that, about like the timing. It's like, oh, it's just something they were talking about at Lucasfilm. But you wonder how precise they were trying to be with this will kind of calm people's expectations or not let them freak out when they see it in Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it had been discussed as like, because it's interesting that it's saving people from dying is like a light side power and not a dark side power, which was the whole, the whole
Kinda seems
lure,
like
to
whole
turn
waste
Anakin.
in some ways. Yep. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, it's that's a good question. I don't know how much Rise of Skywalker was made in concert with other things because there's a small but significant number of like weird I don't know, not inaccuracies, but places where things don't really line up with other stories in some ways.
Do you have some in mind?
Specifically, like Poe Dameron as a spice runner before he, joined up with the Resistance. He pretty well established that he was like a New Republic Navy guy.
Oh,
before
interesting.
That. But I mean, you can always retcon whatever you want. But
Or like, oh, there's a summer that I took off for a while to run some spice.
Run some spice.
Yeah, had some spice in the trunk of my car.
What'd you think about him removing his helmet for IG-11?
I was kind of surprised it happened in the first season.
Yeah,
that they took his helmet off. It seemed like he would, maybe never do it. But
turns out I was wrong.
If you're paying for Pedro Pascal, I guess you got to get that.
Got to see that beautiful face. I was wrong because I predicted that the child was going to use the Force to remove
lift
the
it
helmet,
up.
but that did not happen.
Yeah.
I was way off. But I kind of like the idea that the characters that are continuing, they still don't know what he looks like. I think that's a fun kind of middle ground where it's not just ripping off the full Band-Aid here,
Yeah. Did you like that it was made clear? I guess you could probably guess it in the first episode, but that he was an orphan himself who got taken in by the Mandalorians, and that's obviously why he was so drawn to the baby.
Yeah, that's nice. It's a nice touch for sure. I'm excited for the second season just to see him learning to fly. Like, there's nothing that I love more than like superheroes trying to understand their powers, that level of thing. And like they get to it a little bit towards the end where he's like, well, it's not used to my suit yet, or however they explain it in the lore. And then his jetpack is just like all over the place. That's so fun.
He did really well with that thing, though.
Well, he landed on a TIE fighter, which is very difficult to do. Yeah, but good for him. What do you guys think about what at first I thought like, oh, that's weird to reuse it. Then they kept reusing it to the point that it's like, oh, I guess it's just a motif now. But having the big fake out at least 3 times throughout the series of close up, gunshot, wide shot reveal that you're actually shooting somebody unexpected.
It was great in that first episode, and then every time after that, it's kind of diminishing returns to some extent.
And now it's just, well, that's just the Mandalorian thing. This is what they're going to be doing, which is also how they reveal Price in the new Modern Warfare. It's like the same thing, like close-up gunshot. Oh, no, it was actually this person over here, if you recall.
I don't.
You don't recall
I don't recall
intimate details of Modern Warfare's campaign? Let's see. Anything else we missed that we should cover?
I think that pretty much does it.
That is the entire season?
Do you guys have any other predictions that we haven't talked about yet for season 2?
So it's coming 2021, you said? Or
next fall. So
so 2020?
Yeah, fall of 2020.
Wow, they are rolling with this stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's been in production or pre-production for a while, so clearly they knew that they were going to be doing it before the first one aired.
Sure. Oh, here's let's see, season 2. No, I think that's it. I think they'll have the big reveal of Boba Fett. Boy, I bet end of episode 1 it'll be Boba Fett. That'll be my bold prediction.
That's pretty bold.
And I bet that they cannot help themselves, and it'll end with them going to the Yoda homeworld.
Okay.
And revealing the name and all that stuff.
That's also bold.
Yeah.
I'm going to say Baby Yoda says his first words in season 2.
And it's Womp Rat?
Yeah.
Okay. That seems great.
It's gonna be like Data or something.
Daddy.
That
cute.
will be adorable. Yeah, my main thing, I don't think they're going to go to the Yoda homeworld. I think they're not going to find the Yodas, and they're going to end up looking for Jedi or Force users instead. And other than Katie Sackhoff, maybe the Rebels characters.
Okay.
Which would kind of be crazy because they'd have to recast them for live action.
Yeah. What do you think about when the Ugnaught, what was his name? Seal?
Queel.
Queel.
Yes.
He had that weird line where he's talking about the child and he says like, "Oh, it wasn't created through gene manipulation." It's one of those weird things. I was like, what? Like, should I be familiar with that as a big concept in Star Wars, or was it just like another tease that like this is a creature?
Yeah, I guess they're saying it's not a clone of Yoda. Is that what they're saying?
Oh, interesting.
I figured it was something along the lines of their cloning process.
Okay.
technology.
Do you guys
So
think
it's like
that
a natural born,
right?
member of that species and not Yoda reincarnated?
Do you think it's going to be as simple as Yaddle and Yoda's baby?
Was Yaddle female? Do we know that? Or was Yaddle a dude?
Well, who can say?
I don't know.
I think
who
Yaddle's a
knows
lady.
about these Yodas anyway?
Who knows how
I'm pretty
Yodas
sure
work.
Yaddle.
Yeah.
No, trust me. I've looked up plenty of pictures of Yaddle's genitals. I know exactly what's going on under the hood there. Do you think
Great.
there's going to be any relation to Yoda?
I doubt it.
I hope not. I
hope not too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let us space out a little bit more. Other things, I love the soundtrack more and more throughout the series. Like the main theme, I think is so
A lot of
bold
people
and
say
great.
it sounds a lot like Rocky.
Yeah, Tim Turian on Twitter was just talking about
and
that.
I'd heard that before, and I think it's just because we're also not getting like a lot of bold, brassy fanfares in media these days.
Yeah.
Although the composer did do the Creed movies, so
Oh, is that
Okay.
right?
yeah.
Oh, wow. It's a creed, not a race. The concept art at the end of every episode.
Love that.
It's a cool touch.
Yeah.
Am I too cynical? Please correct me. That's just made after the fact, right? So it can all be unified.
I mean,
like,
it kind of seems like it's made
has
after
to
the
be.
fact. Although
Yeah.
somebody did point out one time that the concept art of the X-wings had like the more modern versions of them that are like the ones that show up in the later movies.
Okay,
And
so
the
some
ones that
things are
showed up
off?
in the show were just like, Return of the Jedi X-wings.
Yeah, and,
Right.
and sometimes some of the minor characters look different too. Like it didn't seem like a one for one.
they weren't going for
that's
the actors. They were
actor.
trying to make it seem like they weren't cast yet. But again, I wonder if
Okay.
that's all retroactive. But again, maybe
knows?
I'm just too cynical because it looks great and I'm happy they're in there for sure. Okay, a couple other very important points I have here. At a certain point, 3 points. All right, first of all, before the Dante's Peak scene, and basically when they're on the river Styx and the Charon in the boat turns out to be an R2-D2 unit, but then it grows arms and legs as it crawls out of that pile. What the hell was
That
going
was
on?
given a really dramatic moment in the, you know what I mean? It was like, you should be shocked by this. And I was
Yeah.
like, oh, okay. Yeah,
It's such a weird reveal.
it is. And then they just shot it too.
Yeah, I know. I was like, I want this thing to stick around.
Yeah.
But then the other point, earlier in the season, there's a moment where like he gets in the car and so all the bounty hunters are shooting at him. And he's like, drive. And the droid's like, I can't drive. And then he like threatens the droid with a gun. And then the droid's like, and like speeds away. I was like, droids care that much about their lives? I never
think
got that.
they do, yeah.
They're all scared of dying.
C-3PO scared all the time.
I guess
is
that's a
true.
good point.
Yep.
Yeah. Also, the other thing is, and the internet pointed this out, but the huge gun he has where he just keeps evaporating Jawas, like the idea is that kind of ties into the no disintegrations thing
Sure,
from
yeah.
Empires, the idea that like Mandalorians have this weapon that will just completely disintegrate people.
Yeah.
It's very fun. Hey, fun show. I look forward to season 2.
Yeah, I can't wait. I loved it. Sitting on pins and needles for season 2.
What does this year look like for Star Wars stuff? Obviously, Mandalorian later on.
Yeah, well, Clone Wars final season is in February.
Oh, is that right?
So 12 final episodes of that show, kind of wrapping up, the main storylines they had going, one of which is Mandalore related. And and just kind of ending it where they were planning to end it originally before the Disney sale.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Would you want to come back to the MinnMax studio
We
and
should
talk about it
definitely
then?
talk about it. Yeah.
Okay, because I've only seen the first couple of episodes of Clone Wars, but maybe it'd be interesting to have me just watch the finale and then ask a ton of questions about it.
Yeah, I also have created a list of the essential episodes of Clone Wars that kind of cuts out all the
Perfect.
fluff. So, yeah.
Where can we get that?
I will send it to you.
Okay. Do you have it on Twitter as well?
I don't have it on Twitter, but I can post it for sure.
Okay. And then what is your Twitter account?
@Are You Bad Enough?
Very sweet. Anything else you want to plug?
Nope, that's it.
Okay.
Look for my Clone Wars episode list, and please watch it because that's a great show.
I think there are going to be a lot of people that will be catching up before the finale, but on Disney Plus, looking for something to watch for sure. Great. Jeffem, thank you for swinging by again.
Yep.
Sweet. And we'll see you for Clone Wars spoiler stuff. And I promise that Max spoilers in the future with MinnMax will not be fully devoted to Star Wars. We're 4 for 4 with Star Wars
That's
stuff.
pretty bad.
I say let's keep it Star Wars.
Yeah. We're going to have to come up with a new name for anything that's not Star Wars.
Yeah, you're right. It's very complicated. All right, thanks for watching and listening, everybody. Bye.
Content like this is supported by the community on patreon.com/MinnMax.
And if you continue to support us and you're here long enough, you can even eventually hear me talk about Breath of the Wild 2.
Check us out. Thank you so much.